Good morning. Absolutely, the mind is totally changed by alcohol, and it's something that's what we have to do in sobriety is change our mindset back to a normal, I guess, normal mindset, one where alcohol is not an issue, whether you know what, whether we are craving it or not. It has to eventually become a complete non-issue. Exactly. Right.
Okay, I think we had a microphone issue. Oh, okay. Looks like my microphone was not working. So let's kind of backtrack a little. What I was talking about was today we're going through the sober letters here, which are sober letters that I wrote from myself to an alcoholic that is struggling with alcohol. And these letters are designed to kind of go through and say, hey, look, I know what you're going through. I know what it feels like, and here's what I did. And here's the thing that helps me. And we talk about mindset issues. We talk about the difference between getting and staying sober. We talk about a whole bunch of stuff that's going to help you if you use it. Right? Again, it's not intended to replace or not go to rehab or anything. Go do what you need to do. This is just intended to give you a mindset
Absolutely.
and a help. And also, what I'm doing over on Talk Sober is I'm going through all the notes that I took in rehab. I got tons of them, and turning it into like a digital online rehab type course where we're going to have live calls that are more personal and everything like that to help you guys get and stay sober, which is cool. And again, I'm not a doctor. Terry's not a doctor. We're just sharing what helped us. So whatever you need to get help with, definitely do that. And for us, maybe it'll help you with the mindset shift and everything like that. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to read through letter number one and kind of discuss it and get your guys' thoughts on it as well, and how it helps you, how it really gets you to understand things. And it kind of goes through my story as well. So I'm going to read that now, and we'll discuss it. I don't know. I think it could take like 6 or 7 minutes to read, maybe longer. I'm kind of tired today, so it might be longer. So let's go ahead. Let's see if we can get this Skype thing going. There we go. Okay, so we'll start off with this one. It says, Dear friend, over the next 30 days, I'll be writing you each day to help you understand what an alcoholic is, how an alcoholic thinks, and what you can do to stay sober. These writings and insights do not come at a cheap price. They almost cost me my very life and robbed me of my sanity. Let me first by saying that I understand how you feel. I understand how hard it is to accept that something so simple and so pleasurable at one time and so innocently used by other people can knock us down to our very core and cause us to wonder, hey, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stop drinking? Or why can I not stop drinking? On so many other areas of life, it was easy for me to excel. I started a successful online business from just a simple idea when no one believed in me, and at that time I had nothing to my name, no fancy degree, no formal schooling, and I barely knew how to use a computer. Certainly someone who could do that can kick something as simple as drinking, or so you would think. And I used to pride myself on my ability to learn and talk my way out of any situation. This was a valuable tool at times, or so it seemed. I was even able to talk my way out of staying the full 72-hour stay at the state-run mental facility, convincing them that I was in fact sane, which I was not. The law requires a full 72 hours, and I got out in 4. Or the so many times people looked up to me for answers and advice, saying, wow, he seems like he has it all together. He seems so grounded and mature. Yet deep down, I knew there was something wrong. Deeper than the alcohol, deeper than my outward appearance, which was usually pretty presentable. I was a functioning alcoholic. I ran my business, took care of my family, cooked dinner every night, and helped other people with their problems. I even had a therapist who stopped charging me because I was, quote unquote, helping her more than she helped me. But amidst the anguishing thoughts and daily guilt and shame and inability to shut my mind off, I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what or how to move past it. Could this little drink be what's wrong with me? Is there more? I would often wonder this as I searched the internet for ideas day and night. I would search for things like, am I an alcoholic? What is an alcoholic? And even things like, am I going crazy? Many a sleepless night, I would stay awake researching and learning. To no avail. Nothing seemed to help. No one had the answer I was looking for, so I could stop drinking long enough to clear my mind and figure out what was going on. In the spring of 2014, my life seemingly came to a crash. I had sold my home in California completely in a drunken fog and was about to relocate myself, my 2 kids, and wife across the country to Florida for no real reason other than I wanted to, and the houses are cheaper. Now, we had problems getting the house in Florida. My income wasn't what I had expected due to my drinking, and I couldn't run away from the fear and constant thoughts of impending doom. I felt like everything was over. My life at that point was worth nothing more than my life insurance policy to me. At this point, my kids were afraid to be alone with me when I drank because I wasn't able to tend to their needs and care for them like a father should. My wife and I had our problems, 14 years of them, but all of it faded in the distance when I couldn't stop drinking. That was all there was. That consumed me, and it consumed them. Why can I not stop drinking? Why can I not get past my past? What the fuck is wrong with me? Those thoughts plagued my mind day and night, and I could not escape. I could not turn them off. The only thing that helped was more alcohol, or so I thought. After a few weeks of serious consideration, I had decided the best way to solve my problems and to get rid of these haunting thoughts was to end it all and opt for the life insurance plan. I had planned to take my own life. Seriously planned and thought out. Not another one of my half-cocked plans. This was dialed in and ready to go. After all, if no one knows what the hell's wrong with me, then it must be really, really bad, and I shouldn't be allowed to exist anymore. This is what I thought in my mind. And a little disclaimer, if anyone's going through this and thinking this, reach out to someone, go to the doctor, go to a hotline, get the help you need, because I'll tell you what, that is a temporary solution or a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and life can get better. If you had asked me back then, Marcus, why don't you just go on? I probably would have said, well, it's not worth it. And I wouldn't have been able to see the glorious years I've had being sober and the times that I've had that I wouldn't go back on for anything. So get help. That's my disclaimer on that part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so in those times, I find it helpful to remember. Oh, wait, let's see. Okay, I skipped down. After all, if no one knows what the hell's wrong with me, then it must be really, really bad and I should not be allowed to exist anymore. Perhaps you're not as bad as I was, or maybe you're worse. But I can tell you that today, after being sober 2.5 years, actually almost 4 now, I wrote these a year and a half ago, I still have the desire to drink sometimes. Sometimes I just want the taste, and others I know it used to help me escape a rough situation or shut my mind off for a little bit. Those times I find it helpful to remember where I came from, to remember what it was like to wake up after a crappy 4 hour sleep, obsessing about what I did the day before, trying to nervously account for every minute. Where was I? What did I do? Who did I talk to? What did I say? What did I thought I did? What did I think I didn't do? Oftentimes I'd be in tears over what my life had become, and I would never want that back. And that is a big thing to remember, what it was like to have to drink. And I can tell you now, I don't have to drink anymore, and it's the biggest blessing ever. When I used to have to go down a few drinks or cheap box wines or the bottoms of whatever was left out from the bottles the day before just to calm my anxiety to function in normal life, it was crazy if you remember that. One time it got so bad that I couldn't take a walk with my wife for more than 200 yards. I literally was trying to take a walk. My legs gave in. She thought I was crazy, and I walked back home and had to drink. My legs, they wouldn't work. My body was not functioning because it thought that it needed this substance. And it felt like my world was crashing in. Other times I made excuses not to go to school functions because of anxiety so bad I could not sit still. For over a year, I couldn't attend church with my family because of this body-crippling anxiety that would not go away no matter what I did. I was going insane. My therapist said I just needed more exposure therapy or some other cockamamie shit they came up with for the day. I even took different antidepressants and things to try to help. And for me, nothing worked. And again, that's not saying it's not going to work for you. Different things work for different people. Talk to your doctor. He went to school. I didn't. Then, out of nowhere, then I got to where it was needed for daily functioning. I drank all day, every day. In the morning, at 4 a.m., at lunch, all night. I was in the grips of alcohol, and it owned me. The very thing that helped me cope had turned on me. I hate you, alcohol. Why did you do this to me? What have I become? How can I get out? These letters I'll be sending you over the next 30 days are going to, 1, show you what's going on in your mind and how alcohol is affecting you. 2, teach you how not to drink even if things get worse than they are right now. 3, give you the gift of sober thinking. 4, help you understand how your mind got this way in the first place. 5, reveal the tools that you can use to combat unstoppable thoughts. 6, inspire you to overcome downtimes and depression. 7, put an end to the useless guilt that plagues you. 8, I have to remember these numbers in my head because I don't have them here. It's just little check marks on my page. Calm you by showing you how to deal with anxiety. 9, inform you of what an alcoholic is and is not. 10, give you daily coping skills to deal with just about anything. 11, show you how to get by without alcohol. And 12, of course, you're going to start feeling better starting now. I write these to you as a brother, a friend, and someone who knows what it's like to be where you are. You are not alone anymore. My words will go with you. Take them and use them. These are the letters I wish someone had sent me when I was at the end of my ropes, and sometimes not. You see, this is a tough mountain to climb. Sometimes I was able to maintain my drinking. Sometimes I could stop for 1, 2, or even 3 weeks, and then I thought I had it all handled. I wasn't a fucking drunk like those dudes in the park. I had my houses, my cars, my business, my family. Then I would look back, wondering how I ended up drunk again. I was doing so well. Now I'm endlessly searching for alcohol in the grates under the barbecue and in the sheetrock of my office, the boxes in the garage where I hid my $1 box wines that no one ever enjoys, pining like a fiend for my next fix, trembling, afraid, guilt-ridden. What the fuck? I was fine last week. I went a whole 3 weeks. I had a beer at lunch with my Diet Coke. I was good. I had a Diet Coke, for crying out loud. I was fine. Till I wasn't. I can't tell you what took me from my Diet Coke and light beer to bottles of box wine and vodka. I can't even tell you where I bought them or why. It was as if some force above me was guiding me to that store and putting it in my basket. My friend, you are not alone, and you do not have to do this by yourself. I've walked this road before, and I'm going to walk it with you for the next 30 days. Remember, alcoholics drink. That's what they do. Don't look at yourself as success or failure if you drink again. Do not trust your feelings when you are hungover, sad, angry, or tired. Let these letters be your guide, and I will help you. Welcome to the first day of understanding your mind. Try not to drink today no matter what happens, and if you can get through the next 24 hours and make it to my next letter, that'll be helpful. If you can't make it 24 hours, go as long as you can, and if you get the urge to drink, go find yourself about to order one, read my next letter first. I love you and can't wait to share my life stories and experience with you. I'm not writing this as an all-knowing, enlightened son of a bitch who thinks he knows it all. I'm just sharing what happened to me, what got me sober, and what keeps me sober today. Use these words as a guidepost and make them your own. In them, you will find what works for you. Love, your pal, Marcus. All right, so that's letter number 1. I hope you guys like that. We got a lot of people coming on with questions. I didn't get a chance to check them out. You want to check those out and go through those?
Sure. Yeah. Sober today was saying sometimes I feel that exactly. Sounded like it came from my head, and yeah, it's interesting. The stories may be different. This is what I find is that I hear a lot of people's stories, and um, what actually happened specifically seems to be a lot different. But really, the feelings they're the same for most alcoholics, is what I've found. And it's that feeling of hopelessness and that there's no way out, and there is a way out. And and there was another person that was talking about. Let's see, I'm trying to find it here. I forgot where it is exactly, but that addicted. Oh, there it is. Quit, cut back to it. This is from Chelly Krish. How the heck do you stop completely or not want anything to do with it? And it's a process. It takes time. The first step is to get some help and get yourself to where you've maybe have a month where you haven't had a drink, and maybe that's a rehab, or maybe that's meetings or something like that. But working with people that are sober, that can guide you in the right direction, give you the tools you need. The one thing is it doesn't matter if this is your first time trying to quit drinking. If alcohol is a problem, it doesn't matter if you have quit before. I know people that have had 25 years of sobriety and started drinking again. Their life fell apart. They're back. They're back sober. And it just doesn't matter. You start where you are today, start working on it, make sobriety your top priority in life. And it's okay. It's okay what happened in the past. Just try to go from here and move forward.
Yeah, and realize that a lot of our issues are brought on by society's pressure, right? So like my issue of, am I worth my life insurance? That was a total society thing. Like society says, this guy's worth this amount, this guy's worth that amount, or this is bad, this is good. And obviously there are some things that you have to look at. Like obviously, like there's some good things society has. Like don't go and do bad things. Like that's a good thing. But some things we have to look at and say, is it really what it's about? So I lost my fancy houses and my fancy cars, but I'm still me. Does
Right.
it does it really matter? Like when people come to the grips of, for me, it was a big thing of I am an alcoholic. Like I thought that was the biggest thing. I'm like, you might as well have told me to say I am a freaking failure. Like stand me up. That's what I thought I was saying. I'm a failure. I'm beaten by a drink. I go into a bar like a little wimp, and I got to have a little water because everyone else can have the drink. That's what I thought it was like.
Right.
And again, that's just a silly little thing that people put on us. And now Naomi says, it's not my first time in the ICU and EMS ride when I simply almost died. And by the grace of God, I'm alcohol free 44 days. Awesome, Naomi.
Yeah.
Glad to have you. And remember, all we all have is just one day. Like we don't know what the future brings. We can't try to predict it. But I know that I'm not going to drink today. That's what I'm not going to do. So we look at that and we look at each day as a day, and we focus on that. And like the letter says, it's about changing your mindset. It's about understanding what's going on. And what I've learned, I can tell you, is more valuable than any other book, any other theory, any other course, anything I've gone through. What I've learned in being sober is so powerful because it changes the way that you think. It changes the way you look at stuff. And what happens is when we try to get sober, we try to get sober on like this plane. And there's this plane we're at, and we're like, okay, this is what I want. And for me back then, maybe it was like the same with you, Terry. I was like, I'm going to get sober. make a bunch of money, going to build my businesses, going to do this stuff. I'm going to be Mr. Productive guy. And I was looking to get sober for an outcome. Right? I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to get sober so I'm not falling in the gutter like an idiot. I'm going to get sober because I'm destroying my body. I'm going to get sober because, hey, I was in the ICU or whatever it is. And there was this reason. And what I found out is the reason is because you want your life back. You want your mind back. And the reason is so far beyond what you think it could be because you're thinking with the mind that alcohol created, right? You're thinking within this bubble of a mind. And then when you get sober, you're like out here and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know what I needed to know to get where I wanted to go because now I don't even want to get where I thought I wanted to go because I was inside the bubble, right? If that makes sense. Does that make sense to anyone but me? I hope it does.
No, that makes total sense.
Okay. Now, what do you think about that? Like, how did that play out for you?
Well, for me, when I was drinking and I did finally take that big step to quit drinking, my entire goal was same as yours. It was I'm gonna stop drinking and I'm gonna get productive. I'm gonna make a ton of money. I'm gonna get that car, get this, get that. Everything seemed kind of material for me. I'm gonna get the wife back, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got sober, then I learned that really it's for me, it's just about being happy. I don't need those things anymore. I
Yeah.
just I want to live a happy life, and that's the reason I love being sober. And there, there's all these little silly little things, like I can go shopping at 10 o'clock at night because I'm not too drunk. I can,
Yeah.
just these little satisfying things. I can go on a hike or a bike ride any time of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk down the street with my head held high. I'm not trying to hide. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I've been drinking all day or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It's amazing, and the reasons for being sober are just they're not the reasons I thought.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get sober for a reason. I mean, yes, it helps. Absolutely. I got to get sober for my family. They want me sober, but really it has to come from you deep down.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because one of my big hangups, and I don't know, I know I talked to my brother about this, and this was a big one for him, was the identity crisis. Like, who am I? Right. This was a big thing. Like, who am I? And he does a similar kind of business and stuff. And we both did pretty well when we were young, and we never had a chance to be like, hey, this is what I created or whatever. And we never really had a chance to say, who am I? What am I? And we had like an imposter syndrome going on. I know I had it really bad where I was like, okay, I'm just like faking it till I make it. And, in life, it's kind of like everyone's faking it till they make it. That's kind of how it all works. It's just a lot of people agree with the guy or people don't agree with the guy. And that's what makes one guy smart and one guy not or whatever it is. And for me, the identity thing was a big one. And I looked at it, and when when I had that day that I wrote about in the letter, everything came to a crash. And it was like everything came to a crash, and I had to, like, I sat there in the mental institute, and I remember a voice in my head saying, "You don't belong here." And then another voice said, "Yes, you do." And I had to submit to the fact that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Right? I was sitting here, and it was like, here I am. I had prided myself on, I know everything. I got it figured out. This is how it is. Damn it, I know how to quit drinking. I just can't do it. That's how it was in my mind. I was like, I knew how. My dad would be like, "Oh, just put it down," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, just
Right.
put it down." For some reason, I keep picking it back up. But
Yeah.
thanks for the advice. Um, you know, and and it was like that. But then I had to come to the realization because my fear was I had lost control. I wasn't able to quit. I was a failure. I was this. I. And then when I said, "Well, who am I?" I'm just one of 8 billion people on the earth, right? It's no more special than Terry or some guy in Zimbabwe I've never met. There's no difference. We're just people going through life the way we go through it. And unfortunately for me, I just had this alcohol thing that kicked my butt. But fortunately for me, it kicked my butt so bad that I actually learned I don't matter, right? And that could be like the worst thing in the world to hear, or it could be the most freeing thing in the world. Like, I don't matter. Like, I used to be like, I am right. Right? When it came to politics stuff, I'm right. That's it. Right then, when I got sober, my politics totally changed. But it's like I'm right, and now I have a different view of politics, but I'm not right. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't. Marcus Campbell does not know how to solve the world's problems. I have no idea. I don't think anyone does. We all have to do it collectively. But that's kind of the idea, right? Does that make sense? Did you have like an identity thing going on with your sobriety?
Well, I learned to accept things. It's kind of what it seems like what you were just saying is just accepting the fact that I don't have all the answers and that I don't know, but what, and that, I mean, it takes you back to the serenity prayer that I only have control over what I have control over. And I just have to accept those things. I don't have to like those things that that I don't have control over, but I do kind of have to accept them for what they are
Mm-hmm.
and just take care of the things I can take care of, really. That simple. Just yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool because Stoic philosophy really talks about that, about things you can and cannot change. And we look at it and it's like, there's little things I can change. Yeah, I can change, I can not pick up the drink. Well, yeah, I can do that. But there's also things I can't change, like my mental makeup, the fact that I had so much to drink that it affected my mind, and now I can't decide what to do or where to go. And it's interesting because it tweaks it, and we go through life, and all the time we have this thing, and I heard about it. There's a psychology term, and I don't remember what it was. I was going to try to sound smart, but there was this psychology term where they were talking about books, and they're like, the interesting thing about books was that we always read them in terms of our time. So, like, if you read a book from like the 1300s, you're going to read it through today's perspective, and you're going to think it's about this. And it happens with Bible stuff, right? Like, throughout all of history, people who have read the Bible think that they live in the end times. It's like, oh, I live in the end times. It's AD 800 or whatever, and then now they're doing the same thing. And it's interesting because they're taking this and they're believing that it's for them. And the same kind of thing happens with alcohol and with life. You think that your thoughts and your stuff is for you specifically, right? This is for me specifically. This is the way it's working for me. And when we look at it, it's like, it's not. Life goes on with or without you. Life goes on, and you can look at that and be like, well, I can use that to be freeing, or I could not. And it's kind of important. Let's see. We got a lot of comments coming in here. Naomi says I was around the clock drinker too, so it was so bad, and now it's so much better. Thankful for hitting bottom, as I'm now so much better than I was, and have gained such perspective. You want to read Sober Today's?
I really want to start helping others too. I have 3 years and want to do live streams and chat about this stuff too. Or if you or others have things I can help with to continue with this greatness. I mean, just getting out there and for me, I try to help others constantly, and helping others is as little as, let's say you go to a meeting and just saying hi to somebody that looks like they need a smile. I mean, helping others can go. You don't have to do live streams,
Yeah,
but
you
but you
can. I mean, you don't
can.
have to,
I
but you
mean,
can.
anything. We're doing these live streams to help others, and that's what I try to do. It's part of my sobriety. It's part of my medicine.
Hmm.
I have a chronic disease, alcoholism, and that's what I do is try to help others. Jacob said, I'm the type of guy who would not get off the Titanic till I found out who the heck is responsible. And I tell you, that's who I used to be as well.
Hmm.
Is I wanted to know who, especially in a work situation, something goes wrong, and who the heck did this? With da 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 da, you just going on and on about it.
Hmm.
Where what I've learned to do is to focus on the solution, and then after things are becoming resolved, then I try to find out who, and that's just so that we can prevent it from happening again.
Hmm.
And instead of pointing the finger and blaming, that just takes up too much space in my head when I do that.
Hmm.
It's better to focus on solutions, staying sober. That's what works for me.
Well, and it's interesting too because I was very much why? Why do I drink? Why can't I stop?
Right.
And I spent so much time trying to figure it out. And I had it figured out. I mean, it was because of these people, this guy, this person, this person, this person. You guys all did it. And, these people are all living their lives. I mean, they got to do their damage, but they're out now living their lives, and I'm stuck being drunk. And then what my alcoholic mind would tell me is, oh, pity party for Marcus. Oh, bad. Oh, it's so bad for you. See, they're over there doing their thing. You can't even stop. You know why you drink, and nothing's helping. And it's interesting because we have to look at it and we have to say, well, does it matter, or am I going to get off the boat? Right? If the boat's going down, it's not going to help you to go walk around and be like, hey, you know what? Was it your fault? Was it your fault? Did you, shoot the harpoon in the floor or whatever? It doesn't matter. What matters is get off the boat. And then you're going to find that when you get off the boat and you're away from it, that boat's going to sink and you're not going to give a shit about the boat anymore because a boat was made up in your mind from alcoholism. Right? And that's the thing we have to look at because we all go through life and we carry these stories. And these stories are like our boat. And we're like, okay, here's our boat. But once you finally are like, whatever, the boat sinks with all your stuff and you're left with just you and the essence of you, right? I always say it to myself. The essence of me is not the stories I tell myself. The essence of me is not who did what to me or what I did to other people. The essence of me is not all this stuff that society puts on, success, business, whatever. And it's interesting because we go through life and it's like, hey, Terry, who are you? Well, I'm a caterer. And it's like, well, that didn't tell me who you are. It tells me what you do. Marcus, who are you? I am internet market. Yeah, but who are you? Right? And when we look at it, it's like we're so much more than just these things, these labels, these stories that we carry around. And life can get so much better. And I found that for me, the things just become non-existent, right? It's like, it doesn't even matter anymore, right? I don't even care. I was like worried about the third lug nut that held the oar on the boat, and now the boat's gone. I don't even care about the whole thing, right? And it's like a byproduct of it. And it comes with, just looking at things differently and panning out and getting away. And actually, I talk about that in, I think it's letter 2 or 3 of the letters, and it really, really helps. You want to take that question from M?
Yeah, the one talked a lot to my partner. Get help. Nothing happens soon. 5 years. My ultimatum was 2 years ago. I will leave you. No effect. Loves the booze. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's it. It. I mean, I'm not in that situation, and I haven't been, so I don't have experience with it. But I do have experience with the fact that I didn't get help until I was completely desperate to get help. It didn't matter. My wife did leave me. There was no ultimatum; she just left me. But yeah, it's that's a difficult one, and you can just constantly continue to do what you're doing and try to push. I don't know that ultimatums help. I mean, it really depends on the person. I would never want to say, an ultimatum, don't do ultimatums or anything like that. But, obviously that's going to come up with some resistance.
Well, what
Uh,
I would
just,
say also is one, take care of yourself first because
yeah,
it's kind of like the airplane thing. It's like, hey, you're on the airplane, and if you have kids, put the mask on the kids, or no, put your mask on first, and then put it on the kids. And they
sure.
tell you this because they know that if there's no oxygen in the cabin of the airport or the airplane, and the kids are like swinging around and jumping, and you're trying to put their mask on, by the time you actually get the first kid's mask on, you're going to be passed out, right? And the same thing happens with you. It's like by the time you are dealing with her, you're not going to be able to deal with you. So the first thing I would say is deal with you, and then realize you're not dealing with your partner. Like if your partner's drinking, you're not dealing with them. Your
Yep,
partner's been gone a long time mentally, right? There's like a fog over it. And it's kind of like the movie The Green Mile. In the movie The Green Mile, they go to one of the prison guards' families, and the big guy goes to heal her because she's really sick. And here's this lady, and they're in the South where ladies are very proper and stuff like that back in that time. And they go to her, and she's just screaming and cussing and mad at everyone, and it's just crazy. And the reason she's like that is because she has like a tumor on her brain or some kind of tweak or whatever. And it's interesting because you watch that part of the movie and you see the compassion of the husband. One, he's got to take care of himself and he's exhausted. But two, it's like he understands that that's not his wife. There's something on her brain, something tweaking him. And it's kind of like, when you have a bad mood, or you have too much sugar or too much caffeine or something, it tweaks your brain just enough. It's like, I'm not really dealing with the rational Marcus or the rational Terry. We're dealing with a altered person. So that's really, really important to realize, if
Yeah.
that helps.
Yep.
But yeah, remember that, and then get them the help. A lot of understanding, and like for Terry, I know it's probably tough to realize, but that might have been the best gift your ex-wife could have given you.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Yep.
know, yeah, and it's like, hey, you know what? Now you have nothing. And I look at it, and when my wife called in my 5150, which is like a involuntary psych hold for me, I could have looked at it as, you crazy lunatic lady, just let me do what I want with my life. It's my life. But that was the greatest gift she could have given me. It was hard for her. She didn't want to do it. Very difficult. But she was like, that's what he needs, because you know what? It wasn't Marcus anymore. It was some altered state. And that's what we have to realize is we are, as much as we like to think we're these profound, wonderful, educated, whatever, right? We have to realize that we're also a bag of chemicals. And it's like your brain's going to be affected by chemicals. Your mind's going to be affected by lack of sleep. And, I think they say that people go insane after 3 days of no sleep or something like that. Don't quote me. And an alcoholic never really sleeps. You're
Right.
never really sleeping. And so you compare that, or you put that with the alcohol on top of it, and it's like, yeah, it's what you're going to get. And I think understanding, hey, yeah, that's what you're going to get. Like, God damn it, why do I drink so much? I'm falling over. That's what happens when you put chemicals in your body that make you fall over. Oh man, I'm going crazy. I can't think. That's what happens when you put these chemicals in your body that make you not think straight. The problem is that it's so accepted in society to drink, and the illusion of control is another big thing. You have the illusion that, hey, I can control this. Hey, check it out. I only had one, and I wasn't crazy, and it was good, and whatever. And it's like, you know what? Is it worth it? How many times have you ever been able to have just one? Right? For me, my track, I was able to have one when, like, I don't even remember when I was able to just have one. But we look at it, and here's the thing: who cares? Who cares if you could just have one? Who cares if you can't just have one? Who gives a rip?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you as much as you think about yourself.
Yeah.
Right? The universe isn't walking around being like, well, that Marcus guy, the universe probably didn't even think about me today. Right? I hope it didn't. It's like, go focus on the people who have no food. Okay, universe, go do that. I'll be okay. But that's the thing, is it's like, I remember a guy who I really like to listen to, who's a little different, a little off. He was in the 80s, and he said something. He was like, I want you to go outside under the stars tonight, and I want you to yell at the top of your lungs to the stars about your problems, about how it's not fair, about how it's not right, and I want you to tell me if those stars dance for you. They didn't dance for me. Right? So we look at that, and again, could be the most freeing thing or the most depressing thing, because we live in these worlds where we are just totally, totally self-absorbed, and I think in our culture, it's different as well, because it's a self-absorbed culture. And I know in like India and other cultures, they actually take men that are like 35 years old, and after they do their job and everything and pass it on to the apprentice, they like go in the jungle or the wilderness for like years or however long, and they just go to find whatever it is they're looking for. And it's like a spiritual realization. I think there's a lot of value in that, because here we're so focused on the identity of ourself that others portray us to be, rather than just looking at it as like, I'm just a guy, Terry's just a guy, Naomi is just a girl, Sober Today is just, I mean, we do what we do, right? You want to help people, just do what you do. Do what you do it good, and be more interested in other people than you are in yourself. And sometimes those things start to happen. I know it's difficult. I'm a little full of myself at times, probably more often than not. But you know what? Who cares? I used to look at that. I remember I went to therapy, and I was terrified. I was like, am I a narcissist? And she's like, well, probably a little. And now I'm like, am I a narcissist? Well, maybe. I don't know. What is that? That's a word that was made up, And that's all it is. Like society, life, English language, everything divides everything into little boxes. Another thing that Werner Erhard guy said that was really good. And I listened to him before I got sober and I didn't get it. And then after like a year of sober, I was like, oh, I missed the whole point. And he said, if you are a tribesman and you have cattle, right, you are going to go out there and you look at those cattle and they're brown cattle, right? And me and Terry are going to go out there and we'll be like, bunch of brown cows, right? I used to live in Vacaville and there's lots of cows in Vacaville. And I would look at them and I'm like, cows. Now, to that herdsman, he's going to go look at it and he's going to be like, now that one is the 52nd shade of gray, and he's a little on the beige side. Now that means he's this, 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 and this. Now that one over there with the black spot, that means this, 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 and this. And all these things are going to happen. And he's going to know exactly everything. But to me, it's just a cow, right? And we look at this, and to the outside world, to M and the outside world who looks at his spouse who is drinking, they're going to look at, just an alcoholic, right? Now, we might look at it and divide everything into little pieces, okay? And we might look at who did what, who did this, why is that, why are they this, should I ultimatum, should I this, instead of looking at it and just being like, you know what? We don't need to divide everything into every little tiny little piece. We just need to live our life the way it is, because these things exist, right? Those cows are going to have 50 million different colors no matter what I do, right? Now, I can learn how to help them and stuff, and that's good. But if I live my life trying to divide everything and put it into its own little box, I'm not really living my life, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now, can you see how that works in your life and your sobriety, like how we try to box everything up and compartmentalize it?
Right. And that I was trying, I ended up kind of living two lives. I think a lot of alcoholics tend to live, they're kind of the actor. They try to fit in this box that you're talking about, and in this box of acceptance, and that everything's fine and hunky dory and I'm successful and this and that. And then on the other side, there's this alcohol dominated life where all you do is drink. This is what I did. All I did was drink, and I was a 24-hour drinker, just like was said earlier. And my entire goal in life was to appear like everything was fine, but stay drunk as often as I could. And that was just self-destructive. And obviously, it eventually did self-destruct.
Yeah.
So it's hard to fit. It's hard to fit in that box when alcohol is the main factor in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because for me, it just all came to an end. For me, the biggest thing was to realize that I didn't matter as much as I thought I did to everything, right? And it was like, no one's sitting around thinking about me all day. And you can use that, and you'll drink, and no one thinks about me, and it's like, so what? I'm actually glad they're not. I don't want people thinking about me all the time. And we look at that, and it's like, it doesn't matter. And like Jacob says, he's been through treatment 6 times. I felt a little more messed up every time for some reason, right? And we got to look at that. What does it feel like to feel messed up? Like, how do we know what that feeling is? And we look at it, and it's interesting, and I talk to my kids about this sometimes. And it's like, you have a feeling. So I want to take you back in time, if you want to follow along with my awkward brain. I want to take you back in time to a time before language. And I want you to think about what life was like before language. Okay, so there you are. You're sitting there in caveman days or whatever, and there's no language. And all of a sudden, you get, like, a pain. And you're like, oh, man, that's a pain. And then you go eat something, and you're like, the pain went away. Okay, and then one day someone was like, hunger pain. Oh, okay, got it. Same thing with feelings. Like, I feel messed up. Messed up is not a feeling. That's a statement. I feel like things are messed up. I feel out of control. And that might be what you're looking for there. And we try to look at these, and we spend so much time trying to define our feelings. I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm this, right? When in actuality, it's like, well, you're choosing it to some degree. You're choosing to feel that way. You're choosing to dwell on that feeling. And you're choosing to define it the way that you've chosen to define it. And people look at it, and, we have these things where we have these feelings, and it tells us this is good, this is bad. And it's like, what if it's neither good nor bad? What if it just is? What if you're feeling messed up after 6 times in treatment isn't neither good nor bad? What if it's a call for a solution? Or what if it's like, let's get a solution now? We don't need a 7th time. We're going to have a solution now, right? And we're like, boom, here we go. This is what we do. And Jacob said, in those, he felt like he was doing something wrong. Maybe you were doing something wrong, right? Who knows? Maybe you're doing something right. Maybe it just is what it is, and maybe you are where you are right now because today's the day to get sober. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're like, this is it, right? This is the time. Now is the day. Today I'm going to stay sober. Just today, okay? And again, if you're getting sober for the first time, go to the doctor, get checked out for, detox stuff. Always go to the doctor. Like, I'm one of those people that's like, if you stub your toe, you go to the doctor, which is good. It costs me a lot of money, but, it's good. And in the case of alcohol, who cares what it costs? You're dealing with stuff that can mess up. I know Terry's story when he got sober. I mean, if he didn't go to the doctor, it would have been real bad news.
Yeah. But Jacob, it doesn't matter how many times you've gone to rehab. If the director of our rehab facility that we went to, he'd gone to rehab 13 times, and last year he just celebrated 25 years of sobriety. So you get sober, it can happen, and it's just start now from where you are, and try to do the right thing. And you don't overanalyze what you need to do as far as I was doing something wrong, but try to do things differently than you did before. I'm sure if you've been to rehab 6 times, I'm sure you're talking to people, other sober people, and what to do. And just try to jump in with both feet and do everything you possibly can.
Well, and surrender to the fact that you don't have the answers.
Right.
Like half the time we go through rehab, and I remember at the beginning, I was like, I know all this. I could teach this thing. But I couldn't stay sober. So I could teach a class on sobriety, but I couldn't stay sober. And that's how we are. It's like, I'm an expert. No, you're not. If you're an expert, you would have it solved, and it's not solved, right? And look at it as, we're going to look at it as, okay, well, I went 6 times and it didn't work. You can look at that as a reason to drink. Oh, it sucks. Nothing works. I'm blah, 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 blah. Or you could look at it and be like, well, I'm going to do this. It's like my uncle one time, he got mad and he was like, everyone wanted to help him because he was mad. And he's like, everyone find something to do. I'm doing this. Right. And you need to say that in your own mind, like everything go away. I'm doing this. And when you look at it, drinking really comes down to a selfish way of thinking. Right. It's like, I am worried about how I feel. I need to shut it off. Right? Yep. I'm worried about how I feel. So I need to shut it off. Or just learn to live with it. You're going to learn to live with the fact that these feelings aren't going to do what you think they're going to do, right? Uncomfortable feelings is just uncomfortable feelings. What problem happens is when you label them. I feel this, I feel that. I am depressed. Like, I hate that. I was going back and forth with my wife about talking to kids about it. Like, I think no one should ever be told you are depressed. Never. You have depression. There is depression somewhere, but you are not. The essence of Marcus is not depressed. He has that. And we look at it as different. Like, same thing with alcoholism, right? I am not alcoholism. I have alcoholism, sure. But am I that? No, I'm much more. And like Jacob says, I always had huge anxiety in treatment. Me too. My rehab experience with 30 days of nonstop 24/7 anxiety. It was bad, but I learned to live with it. And I was like, after 30 days, 1, I didn't spontaneously combust from anxiety. And 2, the outside world didn't care too much that I was gone, which was another big eye opener. And he said he thought it hindered things, but I didn't know it caused, I was shielding it with an ego. Yeah. And that's the thing, is our ego is like our sense of protection that we don't really need all that much. Right? We really don't need it. Like, I don't need to protect myself from the people in the rehab. There's one time I thought maybe I do need to protect myself. Like, one guy didn't get his cigarettes and I was in charge of it. And then another time some guy kicked something by my head. But other than that, which I was fine, there was nothing to worry about, right? When I go to the school to help out with things for the kids, I don't really need that anxiety. I don't think the teacher's going to come out and poke me in the eye or something. That's not going to happen. It's all just made up. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions you see we want to take on that, Terry?
Well, Jacob had also said, I've heard things on these channels. I know I've heard in treatment, and it just washed over me at the time. For some reason, makes me feel so stupid. Well, well, I'm stupid too then, because I learn things every single day, from other people that are trying to get sober, other people that are sober, people that have been sober for one day, people that have been sober for 30 years. I learn things constantly, and these are things that I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that before, but I didn't really think of it. It's okay. This is all learning experience, and that's what we're just trying to do here is give you our personal experience with our sobriety and our journey, and hopefully something can click with you. And that's the reason why, for me at least, that I have to work on my sobriety every day, and I'll continue to have to do so because I'm not going to be cured as some diseases you can just be cured and not have to worry about it again. This is something I have to constantly deal with for the rest of my life, and that's okay. It's way less work dealing with sobriety on a daily basis than dealing with alcohol on a daily basis when I'm an active alcoholic. So don't worry about that.
Well, and we look at it because I mean I read books and books and books on sobriety. I'm like one of those guys who I can't order one book online. I have to order like the entire tree of books that are linked to it. And I read tons of books on sobriety, tons of books on psychiatry, tons of books on psychology, just tons. And I knew the stuff, but again, it comes down to the experience of what is it going to experience in your life. You need to experience a day sober and another day and another day and a week. And you need to experience these things. And you need to experience, because what's happening is you're shutting it off and not allowing yourself to actually go through something, right? It's like, I'm feeling this thing, shut it off, done. But when I went into rehab, or I go now, like now I go and I still get anxious sometimes and I sit with it. And I'm like, well, there it is. So I'm a wiggly person. And I used to think everyone gave a shit that I was, and only my wife does because I'm always like kicking her and stuff. Not intentionally, just because I'm moving around. She's the only one who gives a rip, and she's like, knock it off. No one else cares. But experiencing it. What's it like to experience life without alcohol? That creates sobriety, right? Learning what that's like, because your stuff's not as big. Like he says, I feel stupid. I feel like I was doing something wrong. He had another one. He said, I feel messed up. So I feel messed up. I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and I feel stupid. Those aren't really feelings. It's just you are where you are. The experience you have had has brought you to where you are. Now what? Right? So what I would say to that, I feel stupid. I feel, what are they? I feel like something's wrong, and I feel messed up. And what?
Right.
Okay. I didn't feel like doing this call today. Me and my wife were talking about something that was kind of heated, and I was like, I kind of yelled at her. I'm like, do you want to talk about this? And I got to go talk to people about being sober? How the hell do you expect me to do that? I can't shift gears, right? But the fact of the matter is the experience changes it. And so I go do what I do. Right? Oh, this happened. I got in an argument. And? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can wallow in it. Right? You can wallow in it. You can do more stuff and add to that, and you'll still feel, oh, look, see? Because our mind looks to prove itself right. So I'll be like, if I feel stupid, chances are you're probably going to go do stupid stuff because your mind's like, okay, yeah, I'm stupid. It's going to look for things to prove itself right. Or you could say, and. So that's what I want you to do, is say, and. Okay, every time you feel sad, I feel sad. And? Okay, well, I guess I just feel sad. That's it. What's it like to feel sad and cry and worry about something? I feel down. Okay, well, what's it like to feel down? Okay, now most of you guys, and I and Terry, have gone through and we're like, I feel sad and I'm going to drink. That's what we did because we didn't know how to deal with it. But instead, just say and. Okay. Life goes on.
That's right.
Um, so yeah, let's take a couple more questions, Terry, and then we'll maybe
Well,
give
sure.
give people.
M had a couple here, and I'll start with the latest one, which was huge. Kudos to all those who quit 1 hour, 1 day, whatever. Be proud and who wants to quit. And that, yeah, I agree that it's incredible. When I first got sober, and I'd see somebody that's been sober 30 days, and I'm like, how the heck did you do that? Then somebody else is like, they'd be like, yeah, I'm sober 30 years. I'd be like, yeah, but how many times you drink during that 30 years? It was just an
Hmm.
impossibility from what I was thinking. But it's horrible what you're going through with your loved one, and that's a difficult thing to deal with. You mentioned down there that relative of yours got 10 years on and off in rehab, and then finally was able to quit by herself, and it was something that just clicked, and that's often the case. That was the case with me. That something just finally clicked with me. There's one thing I heard was if a person doesn't really want to get sober, there's nothing you can say to them that they're going to agree with. But you could say the same thing to somebody who wants to get sober, and they're going to agree with everything you're telling them. And
Hmm.
it's just that's the way the mind is the person really has to want to quit, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, and you can always try to steer them in the right direction.
You
And
can also, since this one's about the letters, I got a bunch of letters I wrote at talksober.com. Um, Once we get these ready, you can go to talksober.com, put your name and email in the box. We'll start sending you these letters, print them out, and leave them where she's at. Just leave them around. Because what's going to happen, and what happened for me, and I think Terry also, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not like I don't go to AA anymore. Terry does. And the thing that hit for me with that, and tell me if I'm right, because I think it'll be good to have a perspective of someone who still goes and someone who's kind of an
sure,
outsider. Um, the thing that resonated for me was the stories. Like all the stuff in the
yeah,
beginning that's like, here's how to stay sober, great, great, great. But the stories, I was like, holy cow, that guy hit him exactly where I hit him. He felt exactly how I felt. He went exactly through what I went through. What the hell? Are these people in my house? You know? And for me, that was kind of the eye opener. Was that like a big one for you as well?
yeah. When I was first in the rooms, I tried to go to those speaker meetings as often as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and they hit home. A lot of times I just related it exactly to what the person was saying. And you know what? One a person told me, try not to look at the differences in their stories. Look at the similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started looking at the stories in that perspective, I learned that even when the story is completely different, it'll be a woman and she's got 5 kids, and this happened and this happened and this happened. So her story may be completely different than mine, but
Mm-hmm.
really it's the same because the mind, what happens with the mind is the same thing as what happened to me. The solution, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out a way to quit drinking. And there's different solutions to stopping drinking as well. AA is definitely one, but there's many other ways to quit drinking. And for me, what I did is I just did everything I could. I did the hospital meetings, and I talked to people. I avoided when I was first sober. I avoided liquor aisles and
Mm-hmm.
markets. Didn't go to bars. Changed my behaviors and to eventually change my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just that's the type of thing I had to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because when we talk about that, there's a thing. I'll try to sound smart. I'll get one big smart word today, and it was the word transderivational search, which I think is a real word. And it's basically the term that says your mind is constantly looking for things to relate. And when you hear a story or watch a movie or something, you are constantly relating to that person in your own way. And it's looking for similarities. And it's interesting because that goes back into what we were talking about the cows and the differences and putting things in boxes. Same thing happens with your mind and when you look for stories. So if you have a loved one, one, seek some outside help of someone who knows how to deal with that. Two, maybe leave the letters around. And three, maybe start to look for stories that are similar. Because chances are, in my personal belief, I think that oftentimes an alcoholic wants to stop but just doesn't know how. So therefore, they're like, whatever, I'm not going to stop. I truly think that that's how it
Yeah.
is, because no one wants the life. Like the things you described that happen, no one wants that. Like I
Right.
didn't want to fall over in my shower while standing there. I didn't want to do these things. I didn't want to have this life. I just didn't know any different. And what helps people know different is seeing other people that have gone through it, right? Other people that look at Terry and people look at Terry and be like, oh, hey, you know what? That makes sense. I see it. And now I see on the other side. I saw Marcus and now it's on the other side. Um, and really important to look at. So Jacob, how you doing? Are you staying sober? Are you struggling? What's going on? I noticed you're pretty active there. Naomi says I had no choice but to quit. It was a choice of life or death. Being in the ICU was the best thing to happen to me. Um, Shook me to my core, and now it's 44 days. Awesome, cool stuff.
That's crazy. I did the same thing. I went to ICU and I almost died. But the crazy thing about this disease is I have a friend that he went through the same thing. He went to ICU, yet he still can't get sober. He almost died,
Mhm.
and he's almost died several times since then, and he still can't get sober. It's a tough disease to deal with.
Yeah,
And is he doing something wrong? I don't know. He's not staying sober. I guess that's wrong. He is continuing to drink. He knows he can't drink, but yeah, it's hard.
yeah,
It's a difficult thing to deal with.
it is. And you just it's really a change in perspective because you have to see outside of what you see right now. And what needs to happen, in my opinion, is someone needs to see, hey, you're thinking right now, the fact that you want to hang on to alcohol, I'm not going to judge you. Like I can't judge anyone here. Like the guy there who's like a treatment 6 times. Oh well, it only took me. You can't judge. I was sitting there at the end of my ropes. I mean, who am I to judge anyone? We're all the same. And we look at it, and you really got to look at it and one, have compassion for, hey, this person is not this person. They're going through this thing. And two, the understanding of things. And different people need different things. I remember a story my grandpa used to say about my other grandpa. They were friends back in the day. And he's like, hey, I need to quit drinking. And he just took the bottle out and he's like, go to your house. And if you come over here drunk one time, I'm going to kick your butt. And he called the delivery guy and had liquor delivered, and he went over there and he's like, "Who are you delivering this to?" Okay, and he went over there. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna kick your butt," and he just tell him he could kick his butt, and finally got sober. And this was a dude who was like a bootlegger and stuff. But sometimes we need to just kick our own butts,
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, let's do this. Like, do we want to live this way anymore?" Um, and replacement's another big thing because a lot of times we drink out of boredom. Like a lot of people don't like to realize that, but boredom is a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, so figure out something else to do. That's why, like, going and helping other alcoholics instead of drinking is a pretty good plan, right?
Absolutely.
It's like you're gonna be doing something, and in life we have a lot of downtime, and unfortunately, most people ladle TV into their head, and some people drink and whatever, but you can do whatever you want. And I actually learned in sobriety how to be cool just with me. Like I moved out here in Florida and I sit out on the deck when other people are like, oh my God, it's 95 degrees and 95 humidity. I'm sitting out there like a lizard drying up, but I learned to just be and just to live with myself and be like, okay, I can be bored. That's cool. So yeah, I think this is good. Definitely go over and get your letters. What we're going to do also is we're starting like a online members area where I'm actually going to go through each of the letters that I've written, and I'm actually going to go through all of the rehab notes as well. And it's good for people who are sober for the first time, sober for years, um, or trying to get sober. Of course, always look for medical attention as well. But in this members area, we're going to have a lot of good stuff for you to kind of walk you through it and show you, hey, here's how to have the mindset, how to take people like Naomi from 44 days to hopefully 44 years. And that's kind of the idea, and talk about what really happens and really help each other as well. So if you guys like that, check it out. Go to talksober.com, put your name and email for the stuff, for the letters, and then if you want to be part of the members area, I think It's pretty inexpensive. If you want to be part of it and you need to quit drinking and you cannot afford it, reach out to us, and we'll figure out a way to get you in there, and point you in the right direction and everything like that. Because we would rather have the information in your hands than, have a few bucks or whatever to keep the thing going on. Um, and yeah, so hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. Real quick before we close out, I want everyone to type in their number one takeaway from today's call. Right, whatever your number one takeaway. I think for me it was probably perspective. Looking at perspective, and reminding myself that, what, it's not the end of the world if some little thing happens. So go ahead and type that in. And Terry, if you want to share your one takeaway you got, we could do that as well.
Well, in your letter, you really show that alcoholism can happen to anyone, no matter what their intelligence or social stature, their economic status, their education, even their alcohol education in their past. And I just think that it can happen to anybody. Anybody can become an alcoholic, and there's many things that alcoholics do. I mean, we manipulate, we live a double life. We will justify our drinking, and we're really good at that. We lie. I mean, there's just all sorts of things that we can do, but it doesn't matter where you've been, how many times you've gotten sober. You can get sober today. It can happen. Uh, One thing somebody said to me was, "You never have to drink again." It's that simple. You don't.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That's it.
All right. So yeah, awesome. Naomi says perspective. Sober today says it's okay to accept myself even when I'm not saving the world. Exactly. You don't have to be the knight in shining armor. Some days you just have to be. Some days getting through the day is just enough, which is cool. And we got to look at that. So thanks for watching. Go over to talksober.com, put your name and email in there, and we'll get you guys all sorted out. And if you want to join our course and everything, we're going to have like private calls for everyone. We're going to, have like a tight-knit thing where we're all together and we all work through this together and help each other, which is cool. So thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us, Terry, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you, everybody.